Hello and welcome to the Instructional Coaching web tutorial. During this web tutorial, you will learn about tools and resources to help you strengthen your skills as an instructional coach and learn different coaching interventions and when to incorporate them. You should actually open up, or I would make a copy of this slide deck um, so that you can maybe take notes in them, but there will be some slides where you will be accessing some links. So you might want to pause right now if you don't have one open and accessible to you, um, and then uh, and then unpause and come back to us. All right. So just a reminder of the expectations of academic leaders. One is to create an environment that cultivates the learning of students and teachers. The second is to guide faculty and staff to set meaningful goals and support them to reach their goals. Next is to understand and support teachers in aligning to the Aim High learning experience, as well as using Aim High resources, and also to oversee the quality completion of deliverables. As you can see, the first two are bolded, creating an environment that cultivates the learning of students and teachers and to support them to reach their goals, because that is the focus of this web tutorial. And so today we're going to do a little bit of a warm-up. You're going to be able to do that on your own, but hopefully there'll be some collaboration that you will notice. And then we'll talk a little bit about goal setting and feedback at Aim High. Look at some coaching interventions and you'll have a little bit of time to practice. We are also hoping that we can get small groups of people to also practice coaching together, and then we will do a quick wrap up. I want to start us all with creating a mindset. And just like a teacher should really think about what kind of learning experience they want to have for their students and what kind of learning environment they want for their students, coaches should also think about the same thing for the teachers that they're coaching. And so you should always enter into coaching with, grounded in your beliefs and a coaching stance. And we're going to use the Mills Teachers Scholars ethos to help ground us today. And so, as many of you know, or as you should all know, Mills no longer exist. We are still using this. They are now, this organization that teaches coaching is now known as Lead by Learning. Anyways, this document is still really, really helpful. Again, you can link to this from the slideshow. And they have this idea of the Mills Teacher Scholars ethos. And so as we plan for, facilitate, and evaluate adult learning experiences, the following questions guide our work, right? So I'm not going to read all of these. You're going to take some time to do it in a second. But I just want to highlight the bold areas. Is this a generous, honest thinking space? Are we respecting teachers' professionalism? I really love that question. And is this making a difference for students? Because we should always be student-centered. So we're going to go back to the slide. And okay, so then I want you to take a little bit of time. So this will be a time in a little bit when you will pause this and pause this video and go ahead and click this. And then we have a shared Jamboard here. And I think that this is going to be a Jamboard that we will continue building on throughout the summer, instructional coaches, to keep our ideas, to remind ourselves of what we are grounding ourselves in. So I want you to take a couple of minutes to read through the Mills Teacher Scholars ethos. Think about what resonates with you. What do you wonder? What is one question you want to commit to this summer, right? So these are, the ethos has a bunch of questions. So, what question do you want to make sure that you are asking yourself as you go into coaching? So take some time to read through that and think about these questions. and then you can go to our Jamboard. All right, so we have our prompts up here. Somehow the colors did not show the same way, but that's okay. So I created a few here. What resonates with me are teachers feeling supportively challenged. I think about times when I'm being coached and, and I really love it. This is the whole warm demander part, right? I love it when people I feel supported, but also people are pushing my thinking, right? So that really resonates with me. That helps me grow. What do I wonder? And so there was a question in there. Does the time calendaring respect the teacher's work schedules? And so one thing I'm just really wondering is in the time frame that we have at Aim High, how do we honor this when there's so little time? So that's just a wondering. I don't know if it'll be resolved, but just a wonder. And then one question that I would want to commit to um, is are teachers not just being talked at, but getting to talk? Right. So I want you to take a couple of minutes to read through the ethos. You can also plus one other people or put your initials next to them, whatever you want to do. You do not need to have all three colors, but I really invite you to put at least one sticky note on here. So why don't you press pause and I'll be here when you come back. So now that you have grounded yourself in a mindset, and again, please feel free to continue coming back to this Jamboard to remember what you committed yourself to, and maybe you want to add to it. But now that you've committed or thought about what kind of mindset you want to go into coaching with, I want to talk a little bit about teacher growth at Aim High and embedded professional development. So there was a study done on Aim High, an implementation study done on Aim High by the Stanford Gardner Center. And one of the things that they found that we're really, really proud of is that Aim High systematically supports embedded professional development opportunities for teaching staff. Teaching staff reported that the ideal conditions Aim High affords them, for example, a low student-teacher ratio and a positive program culture and climate, provided an example to learn as well as an opportunity for instructional innovation and experimentation. Embedded professional development can take the form of all kinds of things. It could be co-teaching, mentoring, reflecting on lessons, group discussions of student work, self-examination of one's own teaching practice, and working on adapting lessons to their class. In a census that we did of teachers a few years back, 27% of Aim High College interns entered teacher training programs, and 78% of Aim High teachers remain in the classroom for at least 5 years. And so Aim High has really had a great success rate of inspiring teachers to both enter the field of education as well as stay in the classroom. So one of the ways that we make sure that we are really focused on teacher growth is really centering teacher growth, and you have seen this, the Aim High Teacher Growth Toolkit, but this is another link to it, and this is a folder that not only has this is the teacher-facing growth toolkit, but we also have observation tools in here that you can use, and so these are some old, we can do some observation notes and things like that. And then, let's see. At the bottom here, there's a PDF and it has all of these different observation techniques. We have these old, this is sort of from an old growth tool, teacher growth toolkit, but we had these different core goals. But anyways, this is another resource that is available to you. So we will now start talking about coaching interventions. So the resource that we're using in this section of basically for the rest of this web tutorial are excerpts from, and it's linked in here, and so you'll be able to access it. Hold on. Okay. I'm not sure why it is so hard for me to click on that. And so these are excerpts from a instructional coaching workshop resource packet from the National Equity Project. So you might want to open this and follow along, and I will explain a little bit more in a second. So let's come back here and then we can take a look again. So again, we have coaching stance and beliefs. This is what we are, this is basically what we did with the Mills Scholars Ethos. And then observe and assess. This right here is, just us showing those different observation tools. And then we're going to focus the rest of the web tutorial on coaching interventions. And so that means that we are not covering a lot of these other things, but you can find them in the instructional coaching resource book. So I just wanted to scan it really quickly. That was the picture you saw in the front. I might need to make a new copy of this. It's not exactly easy to read. So, establish relationships. So it gives you some ways to do that. Scroll. Enrolling the client, which means getting the client's permission to coach him or her. Really important. And then it gives you all of these different strategies for doing that. SCARF summary, I really love this. It brings in neuroscience and it talks about, different kinds of threats can trigger different people. And this one, I definitely need to show again, but, just really thinking about the fact that so this status says a sense of importance or value relative to others, a person's perceived role in the pecking order. So if somebody's really, if it seems like status is really important to them, you wouldn't do things that would basically trigger them and feel like you are putting them, lower than other people, or that's really important to them. So just think about those things. And what we're about to go through are the 6 coaching interventions. And so you can use this as a reference in the next pieces that we're going to go through, but this is available to you. All right. But again, we're going to focus on interventions. So what is an intervention? It is any contact between two people where one seeks to help the other grow. So that sounds really nice. They can come in the form of questions, statements, observations. And so we're going to look at 6 coaching or helping interventions. So the first is prescriptive. I'm not going to read them out loud. You can read them. And the second is informative. The third is confronting. The fourth is cathartic. The fifth is catalytic. And the sixth is supporting. So maybe I'll give you a couple minutes to read all of those. You can pause. Okay. One other thing that I want to point out about these is, and you'll see this in the handbook, again, that is linked here. The first 3 are, they'll say that is pushing, right? So you are mostly, the information is really coming from the coach and going towards a person that they are, the teacher. And then the 4 through 6 are pulling out information or things from the other person. So it's just really interesting to think about this idea of like sometimes you are pushing out information and sometimes you are pulling out information or feelings. Uh, I want to say that you know there isn't one of these that is better than the other necessarily. It's they are useful for different people, different contexts, different ways in which people need support. So think about you want to try to be versatile and be able to do all of these to some extent, right? And we'll talk about this later, but there's probably one here that you feel a lot more comfortable with. So, and that's okay. And I would also invite you to think about one that you aren't so strong in, and really working on that just in case you need it. So what we're going to do is I am going to give a couple scenarios, and then and I want you to think about which of these coaching interventions you would do, and what might you say, right? And so in the workbook, or in the guidebook that I gave you, there are some sentence stems, which I think are really, really great. So if you need to coach someone and you're not sure what to say, you can, plan ahead and use the sentence stems in that book. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a scenario, and you could even type in the comments in the bottom what you would say, which coaching intervention you might use, and yeah. So here's the first scenario. So you go into a class, and the teachers of that class regularly ask students to complete exit tickets at the end of class. You notice that they collect the exit tickets and then they post the exit tickets on a poster in the classroom, but they don't seem to address some of the misconceptions that students share in those exit tickets, right? So they're basically having students do exit tickets but not really using them to understand where students are, or to support students in maybe uh, undoing some misconceptions, right? So take a couple minutes, think about which coaching intervention you would use, and go to those sentence stems and maybe think about what you might say. Okay, so you're going to pause, and when you come back, I'm going to share a potential answer. So one thing that you could do is catalytic, which seeks to elicit self-discovery, self-directed learning, and problem solving. And so you can ask a question like, what do you hope to learn from using exit tickets at the end of class? Right? So that's just one suggestion. Again, it really matters on who the teachers are, how long they've been doing this, and, what they are receptive to. But this is just one idea. All right, let's go to another scenario. Scenario number 2. A couple of students were sent to the site director because they were pushing each other and yelling before their STEM class. The next time you visit their STEM class, you notice at the beginning of class, students are rushing into the classroom, some are running around, and one teacher is talking to a student and the other is writing a reflection question on the board. And meanwhile, there's a bit of chaos in class. So again, what coaching intervention do you think would be the most useful here? And what would you say? Again, I would turn to the instructional coaching guide, and one of the areas, this is really great. It tells you what it is and when you use it. So you might start here, and then you can go to sentence stems down here. So again, pause while you think about this question. All right, so here is one thought. I really think you should have at least one teacher welcome students and get them settled at the beginning of class each day, because this will help avoid more arguments at the beginning of class. So, and this is prescriptive. And so one of the things that the guide says is, if safety is an issue, this might be the time to really get prescriptive, right? Again, there might be other ways. You could use catalytic, or there are many ways to do this. And again, it really depends on the severity as well as the receptiveness of the teachers. All right, let's go to another scenario. You have done a quick visit to a class run by two eager young teachers a couple of times. You notice that there are a couple of students who seem disengaged, and in your visit you have noticed that all other students have been called on except for them. So the teachers do not seem to be calling on these students. So again, what intervention would you use? Why? And think about what you might say to these teachers. Pause, and here we go. So one could be confronting, to raise awareness. And so something you could say is, I know it's important to you to hear from all of your students. Based on my visits, it seems that there are a few students who you don't call or hear from often. Why do you think that might be? So one, this is again really kind of calling out what you've noticed. And maybe this is a little bit of catalytic as well, because then you are asking them a little bit to think about why that might be. So it's a combo. Great. So I think I have one more scenario for you. All right. It is week one. In week one, a couple of issues and choices teachers reach out for support in engaging a newcomer in their class. And what they ended up doing after getting some support is they used more pictures and graphics to talk about different emotions with the whole class, including during circle. And by week three, the student was able to express their thoughts with a combination of oral and written communication, and still using the support of pictures as well as Google Translate. So what coaching intervention would you do here? And what might you say? Pause and come back. All right, so for this one, I thought supporting would be great. Seeks to affirm the worth and value of the other person, their qualities, attitudes, and actions. So something you could say, it sounds like the new approaches you are taking with that student are really paying off. She's shown a great deal of work in the last couple of weeks. And so, I think sometimes we forget to really shine a light on when people are doing things really well, or especially when they've shifted things, and but this is really, really, really important. Okay, so we are almost at the end now. So a reminder, here are 6 helping interventions. And I want you to do a little bit of a self-assessment. I alluded to this at the beginning of this section. And think about, which intervention do you use most often or feel most comfortable with? And which intervention do you use least often or feel challenged by? Again, all of these can be useful at different times. And so it might be good to think about, something that you want to work more on. And so again, you can go back to the Jamboard, and again, the questions are, I am most comfortable with, which is covered by this pen for some reason, and I use most often, or I use most often, and I feel challenged by, and I use least often. And so, again, you might have multiple answers for this, but for I am most comfortable with, I use most often, I picked prescriptive and catalytic. I think sometimes I overuse prescriptive, and so that is something I want to do a little bit less of. But again, as I mentioned before, sometimes it is necessary. And then the one that I feel challenged by or use least often is confronting I don't love conflict, but I do use confronting every once in a while. And I also feel challenged because sometimes I feel like I don't always say the right words. And so that is a learning for me and something that I want to get better at. All right, so let's go back to the slide. So again, think about which ones you want to get better at, or just remind yourselves that that there are multiple um, interventions, including ones that are not on this page. So what I'm hoping to give people an opportunity to practice intentional coaching interventions um, with at least one or two other people. And so we have scheduled on day one of week 0 of faculty week for everyone at 11 a.m. a check-in with instructional coaches. And so what we will do, there'll be two things that we're going to do there. One is, talk a little bit about the about the agendas for your workshops that you are going to lead that week, but also I'm hoping to hold some space for people to be able to do some coaching practice together, because that is one of the greatest way to get better at something. So what might that, so some things in preparation, but even if you don't get to practice this, this would be really good practice for you, is to imagine a coaching conversation. It could be something from the past or the future. So who is the teacher? What patterns do you notice with this teacher? What do you hope to achieve in this conversation? And what coaching strategies do you want to try to pay attention to? Right? So what you might do, even if you don't get to practice saying this out loud, you can really think about, somebody that you wanted to coach or you coached and you would love to do it a different way, and almost write out a script for yourself, right? And use the coaching interventions, the resource packet, and the statement stems and questions to help you think through, what are the questions you want to ask that person and help guide them through. So again, this is an invitation to sort of think about this and write this out, and hopefully we will get a chance to practice together. So your exit ticket is to log your time in Bamboo. So please do that. This web tutorial is a half an hour, but there was also all of the pausing that you did. And then there's going to be the practicing, or there's going to be the scripting that you're going to do. So, you're probably going to take about an hour when all is said and done. So see you soon. Bye, and thank you.